Welcome to the Growth Officers Association podcast. I'm Deirdre Murray, the program lead, and a warm welcome to Malcom Harden, who's the Senior Vice President of Bixel. Welcome, Malcolm. Just a few words about GOA, Growth Officers Association. It was launched in 2022. It's a 501c3 nonprofit membership organization focused on expanding the network for growth leaders in the GovCon market. GOA provides a forum for growth executives from CROs, CGOs, CEOs, and SVPs to connect and explore topics around growth. Today's podcast is part of GOA's ongoing and very successful podcast series featuring growth and GovCon luminaries. So a warm welcome, Malcolm. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
On set. Okay. So we thought it would be helpful to talk a little bit about your background. You've had an illustrious career so far with CGI and Microsoft, and now SVP at Bixel in IT thought leadership and business development and P&L management roles, etc. And congrats on this recent promotion, certainly, and on being named to SVP of Consulting Services at Bixel back last August. Can you share a bit more about your background and experiences?
Sure, thanks for that, Deirdre. So, been a little bit of a long and winding road. I've been doing this for over 30 years now. Everybody goes, "That's weird. You don't look like you could have been doing this for 30 years." I was fortunate. CGI, then AMS, American Management Systems. They hired me out of college before I was old enough to drink. So I actually did start this pretty young. Business degree, undergrad and background, but started life as a programmer, as a developer. We used to say programmer, now we say software developer. I went through the New York City school system where you declare a major, and I was a computer programming major back in the 1980s. So I arrived at AMS with hands-on technology experience and a business background, and they put me to work building financial systems, as one does for AMS back in that era. So I came through the sort of AMS and CGI chain to the tune of 21 years of time there, in roles that were mostly technical. And I arrive in the leadership suite with thinking of myself as more of a technologist than a classic sort of PMP style project leader. CGI is one of those businesses that uses what people have come to call the Booz Allen triple threat model, which is to say that you must be able to lead people, you must be able to lead projects, and you must be able to sell and win business in order to move up through the ranks. And so I received that cross training on my way to a leadership position at CGI. I was for a while the chief architect for healthcare after the famous healthcare.gov era. I served as the leader over there, executive solution architects, so the people that you hand the sticky problems to in order to bid the right solutions back for government, and their head of technology partnerships. Right? So my introduction to BD was around problem solving, technical problem solving, solution architecture. What can we articulate here in a differentiated way that will assure the government that we know how to solve the problem. From there, number of roles, notably Microsoft's head of federal partnerships for a while. I like to say 5 glorious quarters. Microsoft's a very, very capable and interesting place. Change is constant, and they change that business quite frequently as well. I was also, from there, went into a collection of smaller businesses and found myself at Bixel now, having come from a chief growth officer role into what is now a head of delivery role. We call that consulting services. So In terms of my leadership philosophy and the way I like to drive success, it is based on understanding the customer's motivation and what they're trying to achieve, and making sure that we can align our delivery to what they're trying to achieve, and that we help them shape their vision for the future, which is part of where growth comes in.
Excellent, excellent. Speaking of growth, it's the Growth Officers Association. We hear often it's everyone's role to grow the company. How do you build that mindset across the enterprise at Bixel?
Yeah, I always say BD is a team sport, and that's I wonder if that's a cliche. I don't think I made that up. Someone made it up. But it really is. When you think about what it takes to articulate to a customer that you understand their challenge and you understand the right solution and the right price point to try to tackle that challenge, it does take a breadth of people across the association, across the organization. Prior to Bixel, I was working with a small business where growth and business development had been confined to a very small handful of people before I got there. And the attitude amongst the folks on the delivery projects was, hey, we don't want to be salespeople. And it took some teaching and some nuts and bolts leadership to help folks understand that it's not about turning you into a salesperson. It's about you understanding that as a professional, you represent our body of knowledge. You are more than just the per hour dollar figure that we can charge for you. You're a professional and you're part of your organization, and part of what we'll ask you to do is articulate to the client why we are the best organization to help them, right? And exactly what it is we will do with clarity. And I think once people come to understand that broadly across the organization, they can see themselves fitting into BD. And it's not quite that big a stress and strain to get help. And as a practical matter, folks have to help you write these proposals.
Yeah, right.
There's no one person that's going to churn through all the proposals. So, but doing that teaching and leading and guiding and supporting, so that they really understand with role clarity what it is I'm supposed to be doing here, they feel more comfortable.
Outstanding. Let's pivot to innovation. What role does innovation play in consulting, and how do you tie it to bringing value to your customer?
So great question. Innovation is a word we've been using forever at this point, and one of my final roles at CGI, I had sort of the Federal Innovation Organization, if you will, and helped them establish the space that they now have in Ballston that they use as their innovation center. Innovation really has always been about using modern methods to do things more quickly. Right? Innovation isn't necessarily about taking the latest latest tool that has lots of sizzle and building some kind of a proof of concept with this tool, and bang, now we've innovated. Right? I know how to use the latest open source generative AI tool, so now I'm innovative. It really is about solving problems. And part of what some of the peer organizations in our space have done that have made them so successful with their approaches to innovation have been to use those centers and use those thought leaders to build proofs of concepts that solve real world problems that they can articulate. And those are the people who are doing it right, and those are the people who are doing it best. And that still works today. Clients, be they government clients or commercial clients, they want you to show, not tell, or at least do less telling, do the minimum amount of telling and maximize the amount of showing. And that's the most successful approach to innovation. When you are able to do that, you shortcut a lot of the sort of back and forth on requirements and back and forth on design. People can see themselves in what you're demonstrating and give you real-time feedback. and that reduces your risk as a contractor. You now better understand what it is they need, reduces their risk because they know you get it. Innovation really is a win-win when you do it right. The trick is you look ridiculous when you do it wrong. Right? If you're just waving around a sheet with the latest buzzword on it, it's a mistake. You'd be better served to not pretend.
Point. To put things in context, today is April 10, so we obviously are living through interesting times with a lot of change and transformation in the federal government. So with all these recent DOGE actions and contract terminations and shaking up the whole world of federal procurement, how is Bixel faring?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a time of great change, and what the government may have, in all honesty, articulated that they needed a year ago or 2 years ago, they've decided that they no longer need. Right? And that really is the honest point of it. And our organization, like so many other organizations, has had to come to grips with the reality that there are contracts that the government has determined that it no longer needs. Right? So what does that tell you? That tells me, and that tells our organization, that we need to be positioned such that when the government articulates what it needs now, what it wants now, what it intends to do now, that we are there as a trusted partner, ready and available to execute on those things for them. Right? I think, I know Bixel's, one of Bixel's core values is service to the public, and executing on tasks that truly make a difference in people's lives. And when the government is ready to come back and say, here is what is important to the taxpayer, Bixel will be there and we'll be waiting, and we will deliver excellence just like we always have.
Excellent. Love the attitude. Love the attitude. So your crystal ball, I'm sure it's working today. What would the future of federal government and the GovCon space look like in 2030? Do I need to ask the question again? Or
Yeah, just say.
Okay. Ready? Okay. And let's look into your crystal ball. What will the federal government and the GovCon space look like in 2030?
It's interesting. I don't want to use efficiency as a buzzword. I want to use efficiency as a sort of a no BS sort of real world take on it. I do think that government operation, as well as the delivery of government service, will be more efficient in 2030. And I say that because we are accelerating, it might be a little painful, but we are accelerating the ability with which we evolve the way we deliver services. Things have always gotten better. We're better now than we were in 2010, and that was better in 2000, and that was better in 1990. But we have accelerated the pace through the current group of folks that are inside and leading. And I do think that in 2030, we will see government services delivered more quickly and more efficient, and through more efficient means. And there will also be a much higher level of automation. I do think that government organizations have in all earnest tried to reduce the amount of paper, for example, and increased efficiency through paperwork reduction. But things like that will accelerate much, much more. There is an example floating around LinkedIn today of a button moving on one of IRS's web pages, and apparently the folks for the folks at DOGE had asked about one of the IRS pages and an interactive button that the citizens were supposed to use on that web page, and they were apparently told it would take 103 days to move the the little button on the web page, and they were posting. We were told 103 days, and we got this moved in 71 minutes, right? And we think that that will have a real impact for the citizens. That has value. That has value. I think that is a good thing. And while it sounds like a small thing, it may indeed increase the citizen satisfaction with government, which is very, very important, near and dear to all of us. So to your question, I think things will be faster, things will be more efficient, things will be automated, and that'll be a huge positive.
Excellent, excellent. There was an interesting article, March 7, Washington Technology, where they were offering guidance to from two contractors on how to thrive in this current environment, getting closer to your customer, which you've already talked about, but also a focus on concrete results and outcomes, et cetera. What advice would you offer during this unique period of transition?
Oh, wow. Well, I try to be big on listening, and that sounds so simple. I think we're all taught as young professionals and young consultants. And by the way, when I'm talking to folks on my teams about how we consult, I tend to use the medical profession as what I go to. While we do not have the amount of school debt that they have, I sincerely believe that we need to be equally professional, equally consultative. Doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners are amazing listeners. They have to diagnose what could be life or death issues, and they take very seriously every single interaction with the client. And I sincerely believe that what will be key for us in our business is remembering the level of professionalism to which we are obligated and becoming better listeners. And it may be that you might disagree with the patient on what actually hurts. They could think, oh, it's my back hurting, and you're aware that it's something in the way they're standing with their feet, right? We've all got ourselves or relatives who have that kind of, your back's bad. Well, your posture is the problem. Your back's not really the problem. We have to listen and diagnose and interact in a way that shows respect for the client, and provides provides a way for us to deliver our observations and our recommendations respectfully and in a way that person can hear it. And I just think that is as important now as it is every 4 to 8 years on the cycles we normally live in. Right? We have to do this every single 4 to 8 years, and we have to remember to do it this time.
Good point. Good point. Culture. How important is culture to Bixel, and what role does it play within your organization?
So one of the things that impressed me so much about Bixel is that Bixel is built on culture. Oftentimes, and I come from an integrator background with large IT companies, we think of the projects that we do for the CIOs as an end in themselves. And there is these are enterprise class projects. They're not easy. They're very important to the constituencies we serve. However, it is easy to get lost in a project that you're doing for the CIO and forget that downstream somewhere there is somebody in the American public who is supposed to be affected by this thing in some way, and it's supposed to generate a good for them. One of my favorite things about Bixel, and one of the cornerstones of culture at Bixel, is that they never forget that. They never forget that. Bixel, in a lot of ways, wears its heart on its sleeve in its desire to serve people, and we work from the result for the public into what the technology is and what the solution is, and the how and the nuts and bolts of the what that need to be delivered. Where I grew up in organizations that were trying to learn how to go the other direction. Bixel does both, and it sort of organically learned how to do both, starting with that service to citizen. And oh, by the way, Bixel's a leader in customer experience, and had been a leader in customer experience before the executive order and before the law passed, which gave Bixel a market advantage in that CX space because that was baked into the DNA of the company. And so, culturally, when we think about how to do a project, what everybody wants to know is, what are we trying to accomplish for the people that this affects? And that was really invigorating for me to join a company that has that as part of its DNA.
Outstanding. Let's talk a little bit about the next era of leadership. Obviously, it's a good idea to be kind of populating the pipeline. What advice, well, two questions, one of which is, how is Bixel building the pipeline of this new era of leaders? First question.
Yeah, so it's always important, as a leader, it is always important to create a space where other people can take risks, where people in your organization can give something a shot, whether or not they're completely comfortable in that vein, and give them, I think colloquially people used to say, give them the room to fail. I don't necessarily like phrasing it that way, but give them the room to operate to their instinct, right? And see what they can accomplish, and then try to build them for next time. I think part of what we are seeing within Bixel is the need to grow people by making them multi-sport athletes, if you will, making them T-shaped, as we used to say, giving them a breadth of expertise at a relatively superficial level that complements the areas where they can go deep. That has long been a challenge inside organizations because as leaders, we are tempted to keep people in the box where there's no risk, right? We will take Jane and John and we will put them on that project. We can, oh my goodness, we can build them at the maximum labor category on that project to do that thing. That may not serve our organization in the long term. It's short-term thinking. And so what serves us and frankly what will ultimately be good for our client constituencies in the long term is building these passionate, multi-skilled individuals who have a breadth of expertise. And you are doing your company a service if you don't force them to leave to go get that experience with someone else.
Right.
And so I think what we are trying to do to build the next generation of leaders is to give people exposures to things that they haven't necessarily seen before, but we're confident that they'll find interesting and rewarding and likely succeed in doing.
Outstanding. What kind of advice would you give in general to the next generation of professionals in the broader GovCon space?
So I want to remind folks, and I'm also part of the American Council for Technology Industry Advisory Council, ACT-IAC, which you're well aware. We have a program for earlier career professionals that we call the Associates Program. It is folks who tend to be in their 20s and 30s, younger professionals. And when I speak to groups like that, as well as younger professionals inside organizations I work for, I try to tell them, remember that this is your government. Right? And this is another thing that hasn't changed in the past 60 days. This is still your government. Part of the reason you are doing this is because in some way, in the back of your mind, somewhere, public service is important to you. You care about whether the country succeeds. Right? When you were working on a project with the Social Security Administration and something goes sideways, it's your grandmother's Social Security too. Right? It's your uncle's VA benefits. It's your, this, that. All these things, they affect people you care about. And even if they're not people in your lives, they're your neighbors, they're your countrymen, they're a bunch of folks who likely do matter and should matter to you. You got part of what you get by being in this business is doing right by your fellow man. And don't forget that. And so if you got into this business and all of a sudden maybe this is your first political cycle and you've come up against it and you've gone, oh my goodness, things are different now than they were when I first got here. I would say to you that's going to happen, right? And you've got to figure out how to do the best job you can do to deliver results for that group of constituencies that you care about. And the truth of the matter is that would be a challenge no matter where you were. If you go to Wall Street and you work on Wall Street, it's the same thing, right? You're a boss hired you in, a boss whom you loved, and that person left for some other trading floor somewhere, and there you are with a new boss who doesn't know you, and you may or may not have a relationship with. So this happens, and as a young professional, you got to put your feet on the floor in the morning. You got to learn what you can learn throughout the day and deliver your best every single time.
Great advice. Great advice. We're going to pivot.
Mm-hmm.
The administration put out a memo on April 3rd about AI. It's
Mm-hmm.
a hot topic.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael Dell actually spoke on the topic at the National Press Club fairly recently, where he talked about AI is up there in the pantheon with the Industrial Revolution,
Mm-hmm.
electricity, and the Internet for its ongoing and lasting impact to government, business, and society. How are you using AI in your everyday professional
Mm-hmm.
life, and how is Bixel using AI?
Mm-hmm. So my answer, my response to Michael Dell is yes, maybe, because while I am not an AI skeptic, I mean I've been working in applied technology long enough to have seen the client server revolution and the cloud revolution and zero trust and a whole bunch of other revolutions. And it may well be that in the over the long haul, AI will outshine them all in terms of their impact. However, I have learned over the course of my years that the application of a tool is what makes it more useful. So the idea that one knows how to use generative AI, or, that is insufficient. You've got to understand the right use case that it should be matched up to. You have to use the right dose of the tool. You have to understand, we're not trying to AI wash everything in the enterprise. We're just trying to solve a problem with this much of a tool and this much expertise to solve that problem. And over time, we change the world. we change the world slowly. So I agree. Part of how we implement that at Bixel and in other organizations I've been in, we use champions, and we've got a gentleman now who is essentially our lead AI engineer, and we put him in a situation where he is very, very visible as a champion for AI in the organization. And so when we're trying to solve a problem, he's in the Teams chat, he's in the meeting, he's in the email string, and he is the one we entrust to raise his hand and say, okay, here is how you could do that with a specific tool. Now, we don't always agree. I am, as I mentioned, I'm a technologist first, and sometimes he will make an observation, and I'll say, that's a bridge too far for me. Right? I really don't think that this is the proper application of this tool to solve this problem. And then sometimes people will open my eyes, right? So we talked about the idea that sometimes you need to build a prototype to show that something will work. Sometimes he will go, he will send me a link and go, you asked a question, I built something, check it out. Does this start to answer the question you need answered? And I'll go, all right, yeah, it does, we got something here, right? But you've got to be open-minded to where tools like AI can take us, but not so hasty to make another case of just throwing a tool at a situation in a way where your constituents, again, the end users, the public, the taxpayers, where they can't make sense of what the heck you're trying to do with it. Right? You're just because in that case you're just bringing expense to a problem. enhancing your solution at all. So AI's got a ton of promise. I try not to technology wash anything. I try to problem solve. And so to the extent we can do that in a sane, rational way with AI, I'm all for it.
Excellent, excellent. You actually epitomize the spirit of volunteerism. So tell us more.
Well, so I'm a people person. If you've ever bumped into me at a conference or something out there, I just like to strike up conversations and talk to people. And in my mind, volunteerism, the idea being helping people, is kind of the top of the mountain as far as being a people person. You get to meet people whom you haven't met. You get to understand what their experiences are. You get to learn something from them that day. And it is an interesting stretch for me as someone who grew up as an introvert. I was a coder, remember? So I've had to practice to be comfortable in an extrovert's skin, but still get that buzz that you get from helping people. My oldest son, I have two sons. I have a college student at Mason right now. One of the great things about Fairfax County, Virginia schools is you have an obligation to a certain amount of volunteer hours. And my son and I spent a couple summers back, redoing the Wi-Fi at a community center. And this is a community center in DC. It's got a soup kitchen. It's got a place people can stay overnight. It's got like a job center. It's got a computer room. It's got all these things. And we went, and he's a techie like his dad. So we went and we said, you know what? We'll just rewire the whole place, and we'll buy the equipment. We'll do everything, and we'll spend some weeks in here, and we'll pull some cable, and we'll fool around. And he loved it. Right, and I loved the people that we both met in that experience. I loved the learning that he got, meeting new people, and understanding the buzz you get out of the tech, and knowing it was a job well done. And I extend that into volunteerism for organizations like ACT-IAC. I do plan to spend more time with GOA and to meet the folks out there. It really is rewarding. I do volunteer because it's the right thing to do, but frankly, I also volunteer because it's rewarding.
Outstanding. And to that point, as you may know, Malcom, you are the current chairman of ACT-IAC, or IAC Industry Advisory Council. Share with us, in light of this current climate, there's a role certainly for the ACT-IACs and the PSC and the Coalition for Government Procurement and for Growth Officers Association. But share with us, what can we collectively, associations and ACT-IAC, be doing during this particularly unique transition period?
Yeah, so one of the great things about the association community that supports our federal government is a number of our associations have a fairly specialized role to play. ACT-IAC's role, most notably, is facilitating that exchange of information between government and industry. We feel we do that better than other organizations that are out there. Our board, as folks may know, is 50% government and 50% industry. And we fairly regularly collaborate and exchange ideas. I think if you have a strength area, if an association has a strength area, I think you double down on that strength and support our government contracting, government technology community by bringing that strength as much as your organization can. I do think one of the baked-in things about associations that make them so strong is that each is a community, and if nothing else, if the association did nothing else, it could get people together in a scenario where they could share information, give each other a smile when you may have been having a hard day, hard week, hard month, hard quarter, and just make sure you have that sounding board, right? And all of our associations can do that. I do think each of us supports our government constituency in some way, shape, or form, and it is so important to support them. And I do mean our careerists, but I don't just mean our careerists. I think that folks who are new in DC and just coming to try to do the best that they can, we try to support those new arrivals every 4 to 8 years as well, right? Without fear or favor of political affiliation. Right? We've all been through transitions where we may have voted for the other folks, and what we did was we tightened our belt and we got down to work.
Yeah.
Right? And we should still be doing that.
Excellent. During this period of evolving change, we'll call it, what's been the biggest challenge for ACDIAC?
I think we have always prided ourselves on creating a space where government could ethically share whatever it was they needed to share, whether it was, hey, industry, you guys are not doing well enough at blah, 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 and you need to do better, right? Goodness knows, there's been several times that we've had government officials take a room full of people to task about not doing well enough on something. We've also created spaces where government could say, we need something, right? We have a problem, and we need something. My predecessor, as I chair, Margie Graves, famously when she was deputy CIO, invited industry to provide its wisdom on zero trust, right? And she did that in multiple forms, including ACDIAC. I do think that this administration has the opportunity to gain the insights of folks in this community, and if nothing else, you will understand what this community believes and feels and why. And that in itself has value, even if you disagree. Mm-hmm. You may sincerely think that the best solutions are somewhere out there that we're not thinking about, but you'll know what we're thinking, and you'll be able to to redirect us towards what's most important for you.
Excellent, excellent. All right, so one last question. What key message would you like to share with this Growth Officers Association audience?
Keep listening. Keep listening. If you stop listening, all of a sudden you are no longer part of the solution. If you're not listening anymore, then all you are doing is trying to sort of force your view. And I don't mean that politically, at least I don't mean that solely politically. We've all been in tons and tons of rooms where we're passionately advocating for a position. It can be, as a growth officer, it can be a price point, it can be a solution, it can be a partner, it can be a deal itself. Do we do this or don't we do this? And we've all been passionate about advocating for one position or another, and we inherently know it's an exchange, and we have to listen to the person on the other side of the table. Why do they believe what they believe? This is not different, right? We still have to. Oh, we didn't pay the parking meter.
He's gonna take it back from the top of that sentence.
Uh-oh, it went back to.
It's always something that you can put in. So sorry, dear.
There we go.
Someone was taking a picture inside of here.
Yeah.
If you guys want to take it from the
Strobe light.
From the top of that last thought
That
that he
question.
was in.
I don't remember where I was. Can you ask the question one more time?
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna ask the question again.
Okay.
Fascinating conversation. One last. What key takeaway would you like to share with the Growth Officers Association audience?
Great. I guess I'll reiterate that it is really, really important at a time of transition that we all continue to listen, listen to the ideas of the folks with whom we are in conversation and in negotiation. And we as growth officers do this frequently anyway, whether we're advocating around the pursuit of an opportunity, or advocating for a given solution, or a choice of a partner, or anything associated with our sphere of influence. But we have to remember to more broadly be open to that exchange of ideas, and be open to listening to the other person's views as we share our own. Because if we are not doing that, we can't get to the best outcome. Right? We're just sort of forcing our view into the room. And so, I would also tell you, while it can be uncomfortable, I think experience has taught us all that it does lead to the best outcome. So, whether or not it's painful, we've all got to push through and get down to that respectful exchange of ideas.
Outstanding. Thank you, Malcom Harden. Excellent discussion. This is all part of our series for the Growth Officers Association podcast series with GovCon luminaries. So thank you for being a part of it. And thank you all to you for listening in. And please keep in mind upcoming Growth Officers Association events and happenings on our website. So thank you. Have a great day.